For most chemical exposures, unfortunately, the pattern is that lower socioeconomic status populations or populations that can't choose where they live suffer the worst consequences. That can be being located near air pollution locations like coal-fired power plants or other emitting sources of air pollution. But it can cut the opposite way as well. If you look at mercury exposure, certain people who eat expensive, high-end market fish that also happen to be the aggressive tuna, the king mackerel, the swordfish, even certain kinds of tuna, are sometimes the ones who, by virtue of maybe their largesse in buying the most high-end fish possible, suffering the potential health consequences of that exposure. In general, though, and this is also unfortunately all too true for Superfund hazardous waste sites as well, chemical exposures are disproportionately borne by people who have lower socioeconomic status, leading to a bit of a double jeopardy, where not only are people having difficulty in achieving educationally and otherwise as a result of social factors, they're also suffering additional chemical exposures that are a double whammy. A lot of this interview is focused on U.S. chemical exposures, and I think it's important to take a second and talk about emerging threats across the world. A lot of focus in the developing world is on tuberculosis, HIV, and other important conditions of great morbidity. But increasingly, chemical exposures are being translated over into the developing world. And as chemical production facilities are moving from the first world into the third world, generally speaking, unfortunately that has potentially significant consequences for the health of populations at large. And as economic development begins to rise in developing countries, potentially chronic conditions of environmental origin will arise in that same distribution. And I think there's a tremendous opportunity for developing countries to proactively intercede and prevent toxic chemical exposures without jeopardizing their economic productivity in the future.